Hi everyone! Today we will be reading the book You Can Do It, Curious George by Margaret and H.A. Reyes. So the purpose of reading this book today is to use our comparing and contrasting skills to find some experiences in this book and compare them to other experiences in this book as well as in the book that we read earlier called Curious George's Dinosaur Discovery. So we did read that book earlier and we learned how his curiosity got him into trouble at times. So as we read this new book, let's start listening closely to hear if George is curious in this book as well. So here we go. This is George. He was a good little monkey and always very curious. George loved going to the museum with his friend. So, let me read you the name of this museum. Museum of the Dinosaurs. In the book that we read earlier, Curious George's Dinosaur Discovery, it actually showed the same image. It showed that George was going into the same museum. So this actually starts with the same setting that started in the other book. That's very interesting. So George must really like museums. While they were visiting the museum, they saw a sign. The sign said that the museum had won a prize. People voted this museum as their favorite. They said this museum was the best. Our favorite museum. It is the best. Dinosaur. When George saw the sign, he started to think, what could he do best? He decided to find out. You can do it, George, said the man with the yellow hat. George went back home. He was good at drawing dinosaurs. Maybe he could draw the best dinosaur picture ever. All right, so I have a question for you to think about. What words would describe George besides curious? So pause and tell an adult what you think. All right, so I'm thinking that the words over here, let me read the sentence and find these words. He was good at drawing dinosaurs. So I'm thinking these two words here, drawing dinosaurs, would be a great set of words to describe George. So George could be a good drawer. So another thing to describe him besides curious would be drawing dinosaurs. He's a good drawer when he works on dinosaurs. George decided that he liked to draw, but he wanted to try to do something different. He climbed out of the window to look for ideas. Soon George came to a restaurant. That gave him a great idea. George loved spaghetti. He decided he would make the best spaghetti ever. You can do it, George. Uh-oh. Look here at this illustration. It looks like George is sitting in the spaghetti. That's so silly. Look at all that spaghetti. George thought it tasted great. He tasted more and more of it and made a big mess. So, does it surprise you that George made a mess? Why or why not? Tell an adult. All right, so let me tell you what I think. I think it does not surprise me that George made a mess because it seems like in every book we read about George, he's always finding some kind of trouble to get into. So I'm thinking that this mess might get him into some trouble. Oh. Then the chef came in. Get out, he shouted. Get out of my kitchen. George was going to have to find something else he did best. George needed another idea. He got on a bus to think. The bus took him to the ski slope. That gave George an idea. He grabbed the biggest sled he could find. This is large. So, quick question before we read this page. What might happen to George on the ski slope? What do you think? What makes you think that? All right, so I think that George on the ski slope might slide all the way down the slope on his new sled that he found. Let's see. Maybe he could sled down the hill faster than anyone ever had before. You can do it, George. At first, sledding was fun. Then George started going too fast. Zigzag. Look out, George. George was going to have to find something else he did best. Oh no, he found himself in some trouble again. George needed another idea. Then he remembered something he did better than anyone. He rushed back home. Home. When he got there, he took out his kite. He was going to be the best kite flyer ever. George got his kite to go higher and higher. You can do it, George. Then the kite lifted George right off the ground. Look out below! George landed in a tree in the forest. His kite flew away without him. George was going to have to find something else he did best. Uh-oh. Just then, George spotted smoke. Oh no! It was a forest fire. So I have another question for you. Think about this first. In the other book, we read about how George's curiosity ended up helping the scientists. Would there be a way his curiosity would help someone in this book? What do you think? Tell an adult. All right, well, let's find out. George wanted to warn everybody about the fire. He raced to town and found the fire station. The firefighters quickly put out the fire. Phew! By now, the sun was setting. It was too late for George to figure out what he did best. George's friend met him back at the museum. The director had heard that George warned everybody about the forest fire. She thought that was the best thing anyone had done in a long time. So George did end up helping people. He warned them about the fire. George did it! Hooray! He found out what he can do best. He is the best helper. George got a very special prize that day. And that is the end, my friends. So if you go to the next slide, you will find some questions that you will answer about this book. Great job.